Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. This is going to be awesome. So today we're taking a look at a new record player by Retekess. Now you may be saying, Retekess? I know that name from somewhere. Yes, they make all sorts of portable radios. Really cool stuff, high quality, unique, and fun, and we've reviewed them for years on this channel. So I'm super excited to see what they've done in the vinyl space. This is their first foray into turntables as far as I know, and I'm super excited to check it out. Anyway, you're not gonna wanna miss this. Okay, so here is the Retekess record player, which is amazing because these guys have made, pocket-sized radios, handheld radios for years, and we've reviewed a ton of them. And then out of the blue, they're like, hey, guess what? We've got a record player. I was like, okay. Excited to see, what this is all about. And as always, is this going to be a good option for beginners? So let's go ahead and open it up and see what we got. Sometimes I'm not sure if it's going to have retail packaging or not. If a company is purely selling online, more times than not, they won't. Such is the case here. So you open up the shipping container and the product is directly in there. So let's go ahead and slide it out. We've got some styrofoam blocks. And also in the box, some more styrofoam. This random piece here. And what looks to be a user manual with accessories. We've got an 1/8 inch to RCA, and then we've got a stereo RCA, and then we've got the manual. So all good things. All right, we got a little power supply here. Let's see what this is exactly. So that is a 12-volt power supply, which tells me this probably has a magnetic cartridge, which is a good thing. Instantly, the rating goes up in my book if it has a magnetic cartridge. It's just going to sound better. There's nothing really wrong with a ceramic. It's not going to damage anything, but the fact of the matter is magnetics just sound better. Okay, here's the dust cover. It's be very well protected. We got an outer plastic wrap, and then we've got one of these adhesive sort of sticky cling wrap things. And when I say sticky, don't worry, it doesn't leave a residue or anything. So let's take a look at this dust cover. You guys know I'm pretty particular about my dust covers. I like smoked dust covers best, which this obviously isn't. I like blue tinted ones second best, which this also isn't. This looks to be pure, crystal clear acrylic. But yeah, it's thick. It seems a little thicker than some. It's got the little rubber stops right there, so that's good. I'm going to set that aside for now. We will come back to it. Here is the device. It's got good weight to it. I can lift it with one hand, but it's not as hollow and lightweight as others that I've seen. We've got lots of styrofoam protecting things, which is good, including around here. I like it when they take steps to protect the product. Obviously, the likelihood of damage in transit is less. What's that? That's just a little piece there. We've got a piece on the back here, which, how's that going to come off? It's kind of hard to do with one hand. It's right by the hinge there. Move this out of the way. It's got an Audio-Technica 3600 I can see, which is good. Pull that off, pull the guard off, and spin this around here. I may have to move the tone arm in order to get this off because it's butted up against that hinge, which is kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and move that out of the way. Sure enough, it pops right off. Okay, is this got a little, yep, there's a little protective sleeve around that too. Wow, okay, so from a protect the investment standpoint, 5 stars. All right, let's take a look at this thing. The Retekess TR639. Interesting, it's like their first record player. So you'd think it'd be like TR1 or something. It's TR639. Okay, so the finish is probably a board material, an MDF or something, with this laminate over it. kind of like a countertop laminate from the 80s. But it's got a nice texture to it. Obviously the branding is there. So we've got a felt, kind of rigid felt platter mat. Get the job done. Plastic platter. Dang it. Dang it. Instantly you lose points with a plastic platter because it's going to be lighter weight. There's less mass inertia, which means that the wow and flutter could be more. I do like this gold trim design, kind of the gold and black. Looks pretty sharp, although I wish like the knobs had the same color accent as the gold. It's all right. It's not a complete deal breaker. You can still have a decent turntable with a plastic platter. It just means that you're relying on the motor speed, the quality of the motor, the spec of the motor a little bit more. So this is held in place with a C-clip, just like a suitcase player or an all-in-one. It is belt driven. You can see up here the motor pulley, and then the belt rests on a sub platter there in that opening. You can see that. And why is the motor pulley over there, you may ask? You'll notice it's diametrically opposed to the cartridge. The idea is to keep the motor noise as separate physically as possible from this. Sometimes turntables will have it up here. It's not going to make a huge difference, but the smartest thing is to have the motor over here. So that's the best place for it. And that's really all there is to see here. You could take this off and, by popping off the clip and putting on a new belt and all that good stuff. The edge of the platter does have the design of a strobe, and it may or may not be functional. I'm not 100% sure on that, and time will tell, right? So let's take a look at the rest of this. Let's look underneath. Okay, the bottom side is plastic. We do have speed adjustments for 33 and 45 as a 2-speed turntable. The feet have a little bit of a pivot to it with like a foam rubber pad, and smaller feet in the back that are more of a rubber material. And sliding it around this way, we can see the back here. Obviously these clips for the dust cover. But we've got a built-in preamp because that moving magnetic cartridge, you need a preamp. So they have one built in, or you can go to a phono mode and use your own. And if you do that, you'll not only need the RCA output, but you'll need the ground as well to connect to that external preamp. But if you're going with the built-in one and using the line output, all you need is this. Also, you can switch from either line out or BT out. So you can either do the analog out or digital out. It'll transmit Bluetooth. Okay, wasn't expecting that feature. It's weird you have to pick between the two. Usually you can do Bluetooth out and have that out as well. And then the 12-volt power supply. That's really all there is to it. Let's take a closer look at that tone arm in the control. So it is a J-shaped tone arm. It's somewhere between a straight tone arm and an S-shaped, so it basically just kind of angles in like that. I really don't have a strong preference on straight tone arm versus J-shaped versus S-shaped. I just don't have a strong opinion on it. I'm trying to determine if that's metal. I can't tell if that's metal or plastic. Anyway, so here is the main gimbal there. There's a little bit of a give to it, not too much. The counterbalance is metal. I can tell it's heavy. It does appear to be fixed, though. You can't really do anything with it. And we do have a cueing lever, which is nice. And a little lift shelf with a rubber liner on it. Yeah, this is all plastic. This housing is plastic, too. Like I said, there's a little bit of movement in the gimbal, but it's not too crazy. And then if we go over here, we've got these two knobs that appear to be like a brushed aluminum. This first one here, I'm going to turn it sideways so you can see what it is. It's the it's a power switch and speed selector, so 45, 33, or off. And then, yes, we do have a pitch control, which is great to see. So maybe those strobe markings are real. And then down here, we've got a Bluetooth indicator light showing if you're connected to Bluetooth. All right, let's look at the head shell and the cartridge assembly. So this does make use of the 3600L, which I mentioned before. It's a great moving magnetic cartridge. We'll give it a listen. We'll do a direct feed sound test on this, so you'll be able to hear directly how this turntable sounds. It does not have, it's a permanently fixed head shell, or at least it's the base is screwed in right there. It's not a standard 1/2-inch mount. So I would have liked to have seen that as well. It's also a tab style head shell, and there's a little bit of lateral movement there. You can see looking down the shaft to the base here, the whole thing kind of wants to roll, and that's not great. So in terms of the precision of this, I'm not, it's a bit iffy there. So we'll see. Again, it may be, this one may differ from the next one off the line. Kind of hard to say, but we'll give it we'll put it through its paces. We'll give it a listen. And then there's screws go down, so it's a tab style. So you can change out the cartridge, obviously the stylus and whatnot. For a beginner turntable like this, don't spend the money on upgrading the cartridge. I just wouldn't do it unless you're just, fixated on getting like an elliptical stylus or something like that. You could maybe upgrade the stylus or the cartridge to something on par, but I wouldn't go putting a $200 cartridge on this turntable. It just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And then down at this angle, you can kind of get a better angle of those notches that are hopefully real strobe markings. Not 100% sure. And yeah, a little bit of look under the platter there. That's pretty much it. It's pretty simple, which is fine, but how does it sound? How does it perform? Let's put it together and give it a listen. There it is all put together. I think it looks pretty sharp. I think it looks pretty sharp indeed. It's pretty sleek. It's pretty modern looking. I think it would fit into, home decor that has kind of that minimalistic modern look to it. Dust cover fit is very nice. I like the rubber stops. It doesn't feel like it's clacking onto the platter like the ones do that don't have the rubber. It feels like it's a nice soft closure. Yeah, good hinges. Everything seems good there. So what we're going to do first is a speed test. Now it does have the pitch control. So normally I don't do a speed test on a unit that is, has a pitch control because you can adjust it. But sometimes I like to just to, see how it's set, and then also see in situations like this if that those strobe markings are real. Obviously we'll validate it with our own, but we should be able to test both. So I've got it plugged in, and we'll listen to anything yet. We're going to do a Bluetooth audio test and a direct feed in a couple of minutes here. But let's start with a basic on-off. So flipping it from off to 33. It is in Bluetooth mode, so it's going to go to that blue light. And I'm sure nothing will happen until I move this across here, which makes sense. So I'm going to raise this up so we don't drag our needle on this disc. And then we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at these strobe markings. Look first here, and then we'll look on the edge to see if we can see anything. In order to do that, I need to change the lighting setup in here. So bear with me as I get reset for that shot. We'll take a look. Okay, so we are going to be looking initially right here on this band. That is 33 RPM. So let's go ahead and see where we're at. And you can see those lines are marching a little bit to the left. Now, where is the pitch control? Over on the right side of the shot here off camera, it's at about 50%. So let me go ahead and make that adjustment until it is perfect. So I turned the speed adjustment down because it was a little fast. And now you'll see those lines appear to be quite stationary. So that's good. Let me go to 45, which is going to be right here. And those are stationary as well. So let me show you where I had to change the pitch control to. So as you can see, neutral would have been 12 o'clock and it's like 10 o'clock. So if you wanted to calibrate that so that perfect pitch was at 12 o'clock, you could do that with those adjustments underneath. Or if you're fine with this, that's fine too. Now let's look at the strobe markings on the side of the platter and see if they're real or not. Okay, so we are spinning at 45 RPM, and this is really hard to see. In person, you can't see anything. On camera, it looks like they're moving way to the left. Let me switch to 33. And then see if I can slow it down or speed it up with the pitch control. Yeah, you can see a change. Like that is hard left, like as slow as it'll go on the pitch control, but still doesn't quite slow down. So I'm going to say those are decorative because I know due to my actual strobe disc that this is perfect speed. And as you can see, it doesn't look like it. So I'm thinking that those are decorative markings on the platter there, which is a bummer. I don't like decorative things that look real but aren't. So it is what it is. I would rather have a regular metal platter on this. The motor could totally spin it. In fact, you could probably retrofit a metal platter on here. I'm not suggesting that necessarily because I don't know for sure that this unit could handle that, but I'm sure that motor could drive a metal platter. So a bit of a bummer, but yeah, there it is. Okay, let's test the tracking force. I'm going to turn this off so the thing doesn't go spinning. And again, tracking force is determined by the cartridge. So a 3600L Audio-Technica is going to require, it's a heavier tracking cartridge. So it's going to require somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 2.5 grams up to 4. So that's kind of the ballpark for this. If it's 3, I would say that's probably ideal. So let's go ahead and lower this. Make sure that our tone arm rest or lift is out of the way. And our gauge is calibrated to 0. And let's see what it's tracking at. Okay, 2.6. That's very reasonable. I think that that's an acceptable weight. It's a nice light tracking weight for this cartridge. You know, you wouldn't want to get much lower than 2.5 or you might have some tracking errors, but it's definitely not too heavy. And from the standpoint of weight, won't do any damage. As we said earlier, there's a little bit of an azimuth issue with this because the tone arm has a little bit of give on a rotational basis. If and how that will translate to playback, it remains to be seen. And again, it may be a one-off to this. Okay, let's start with a Bluetooth test for music today for both the Bluetooth test and the direct feed. I'm going to be using this record. I don't think I've featured this on the channel yet. This is a Phase 4 stereo London record, so these are good. These are nice audiophile records. Melody and percussion for 2 pianos, Ronnie Aldrich and his 2 pianos. I'm hoping and somewhat confident that this shouldn't trigger any copyright issues, but you'd be surprised. So this smells like an antique store. This record, I don't know if I've ever even listened to this. So we're going to experience it together. I'm going to go ahead and place that on there. You can tell it needs a dusting, even though it was in its protective sleeve. And then I'm going to connect it to the Bluetooth speaker. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and raise this up, move it over here, turn it to 33, use a carbon fiber brush. Bladder wobble seems to be minimal, or there's a little bit of wobble there, but it's not terrible. Again, this is a beginner's turntable. And for somebody just starting out, it might really do the trick. That's what I'm hoping. Hopefully it sounds really good. I'm going to go ahead and drop this for now. We won't hear anything yet because this is in Bluetooth pairing mode. So I got my Bluetooth speaker. I'm going to bring it to life. It will go into pairing mode and hopefully connect. At least that's the goal. So give it a second to connect. We'll hear a chime as soon as it does connect. There we go. That's just me holding the speaker up to the mic. So not a proper sound test, but at least it gives us an idea of how easy, and it was easy, to connect the Bluetooth. The 2 devices pairing each other without a screen. Always sort of a mystery to me, but it works. Being that this is a dark finish, this black finish, you're gonna have to dust this thing off. It's gonna show up, dust particles and whatnot. And that's why you got a nice, good, head shell. Tone arm was still up. There wasn't quite enough clearance for it. That's why you've got yourself a nice dust cover on there. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over to direct line out mode. Remember, there's that switch on the back, and I'm going to connect this to my digital recorder. Again, not to go over the same stuff over and over, but I have to use a headphone amp because my recorder doesn't like true line level. And anyway, we'll get it all set up and we'll do a direct feed. So hit pause, go grab your headphones if you haven't already have them on, and we're going to listen to this thing directly and truly evaluate the sound quality. All right, we've got a fly in the ointment. I set this up and tested it, that's why I know. So see if you can pick up the issue on the sound test. So I am going to hit record on this, and we'll insert some audio. And very cool record, by the way. But let's see if you can pick up what I'm picking up. So I'm going to go ahead and hit record now. Don't have to be a rocket scientist to hear that distortion. This thing is overmodulating. It's sending out too hot of a signal. Now, my headphone amplifier that I use here isn't adding any amplification. It's actually detracting. I use it as a pad to lower the voltage because this thing doesn't like to record, straight from the line level, like I said. So it's actually improving the situation. I also ran it through a couple of different filters that this has to see if we can improve the audio. No luck. And also I tried the Bluetooth out and really listened to the sound. I thought I heard a hint of it when we were doing the Bluetooth test earlier, but yeah, it's distorting on all the outputs. So that means the problem is in here and it's fairly centralized. So rather than just chucking it or sending it back, I'm going to void the warranty because I can, and I don't do this at home, kids. And I'm going to see if it's something we can turn down. Like if there's like a trim pot for an amplifier or something that we can make an adjustment. Again, you shouldn't have to do this. So we're now in the category of entertainment mode. Do all of these have this problem? I don't know. Hopefully not. It's new to market, so it's possible that Retekess could make improvements or changes. It's also possible it's one off the block, one off the, one of these having this issue, not that they're a systemic issue. But fun thing is we got to open it up. We haven't done that in a while. So let's go ahead and crack her open. Okay, so we're going to start by, not that we'll get much of any information under here, but I figured since we're taking it apart, let's pop the C-clip off and let's have a gander under the hood. Why not? There's the sub platter again. It's all plastic. I mean, it's a pretty rugged piece of ABS, but it's still plastic. There's the belt. There's the motor spindle. And here is the non-rotating main bearing with a ton of what looks like white lithium grease. Nothing else down in here. It is kind of interesting, though. You can see the substrate of the plinth. And no surprise, it is a board material, painted black on the edges with a plastic laminate. But forgot to mention this little adapter peg back here for this cheapo 45 adapter. Yes, we do still sell 45 adapters. And if you got a request of a color you'd like us to see, do, or design or something, let us know. We might do an exclusive. But right now, you can get the orange one all day long. I'm going to keep this in place here, this dust cover. I'm going to put a towel or cloth down or something, flip it over, and we're going to open it up. Okay, so I got to thinking I probably should have flipped the line/phono switch off and just to test if it was better at phono level. But it should output a proper line level, and it's not. It's outputting way too hot of a line level. So let's go ahead and take a look under the hood. Good excuse to do so. Interesting. It's pretty full, actually. I thought it'd be a lot more hollow, more of that MDF type of board material, the bottom side of the platter, pan, or dish, whatever you would call it. Interesting. Let's take a look at some of this stuff. We've got this micro switch right here for the position of the tone arm to open and close. That's how the record player knows to start spinning the platter, depending on where the tone arm is. There's also this little metal bar with a crook in it, which is the lift shelf. So when you adjust the lift, that's how it rotates that up. No surprise, the circuit board is in the back with all the goodies facing down. So I'm going to remove that board, and we're going to see if there's a trim pot and kind of go from there. Now, there's a possibility that this could also be addressed with different value capacitors and resistors. I'm not going to get to that level. I'm not that guy. I can solder and desolder and do things like that, but this channel, that's outside the scope of this channel. We're just beginners here. We have a JYK sticker on this motor back here, so it's a common version that we do see. That's about it. Over here is a circuit board laying on its side that is, oops, kind of off frame. Right here, the circuit board laying on its side, which is addressing the knobs of on and off, the pitch control. And as you can see, that mostly goes back into this primary PCB. So let's go ahead and attempt to remove this, and we'll go from there. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether or not this is something we can do. I've never had to do this before, but it stood to reason there was a remote possibility worth popping it open and maybe making some interesting content for you along the way. I like seeing what's inside stuff. When Techmon's doing a video and he doesn't open it up, I'm a little disappointed because I just want to, I'm curious, I'm a curious kid. I want to see what's on the inside. So let's go ahead and see if we can make that happen here. Okay, with those screws removed. And I'm going to be cognizant of the fact that this wire braid is, I'm going to remove the tape here, but it's actually soldered to the board. Same thing with this ground wire. You can see that goes right to the grounding post. That would make sense. And we're going to remove this here and rotate it as gently as possible. We do have a clip that's glued in. That's awesome. And let's rotate it up. And yeah, there's not much. I don't see any adjustable pots. We got a handful of capacitors, some resistors, and an IC or two. So everything is pretty tiny and not serviceable from what I can see. So I'm guessing there could be a resistor value that is incorrect, something along those lines, because there's not like an active trim pot for the amplification. Now keep in mind there's no volume control on this unit either. It's on, off, or whichever speed you want, and then there's a pitch control. So the amplification is in one of these ICs, and it's a set value. Kind of a bummer, but that's the way it is. I'm gonna take a little closer look off camera here, but I think that's what we're dealing with. All right, something I noticed is kind of interesting. If you look on the underside of the bottom, the part where goes over the motor and does allow the trim pots, it's kind of like been like somebody took a multi-tool and ground out a little bit of plastic to create some more headroom for this motor casing. So kind of interesting there. All right, my friends. So, dang it. I hate it when this happens. But unfortunately, as you could hear, there was distortion. Now, I spent like 2 days trying to make this distortion go away. I tried all sorts of records. I tried testing it through the Bluetooth output and the direct line output. In both cases, it had that same distortion. It just sounds like it's over amplified. Could not get in and make an adjustment, which was a mega bummer. So it could be a one-off. I thought about replacing the cartridge, like maybe it was a bad cartridge, but I'm kind of leaning towards more of the internal components or a setting or something. I'm not sure. So we'll reach out to Retekess and hopefully, we can take a look at a second unit that hopefully doesn't have this problem. Besides that, this wouldn't be a terrible beginner turntable. This might be a good option for the beginner if it weren't for that sound thing. But you've got to have good sound ultimately, right? That's why you go for a turntable, because you want the quality sound that cartridge can provide, that J-shaped tone arm. The whole setup is geared towards sound quality. So something didn't quite add up. But we'll get to the bottom of it hopefully and present that to you in a future video. But mostly, I just want to thank you for being there. Thank you for all of your support and love. We love you guys so very, very much. Don't forget about our custom 45 adapters, our merch, all kinds of cool stuff we have available. But again, most important is just being there. We thank you for that. So that's going to do it for today. Happy record hunting. We'll see you next time.